Hello everybody, today I'm going to talk about Docker, what is it, and how as a developer you can use it to make your life much easier. In this video, I will show you how to work with it and what is the main principle that it has. Let's go! My name is Hatam and I'm working as a software engineer for the past 8 years. Docker is a very cool tool that I'm using every day and it makes my job much easier. So what is a Docker? Docker is a tool that it can run your application in containers. So you might ask, what is a container? Containers are like lightweight virtual machines that they can run your application in them, and it can be easy to deploy on any platform that you like. From the time I remember that I was working as a programmer, I remember I had to work very hard in the beginning of each project to set up my machine. So imagine just you're trying to do web developments. You need to set up your server, you need to set up your database, you need to make sure that your local environment is working and you can have a virtual setup in it. Different project requires different databases, different project require different environment. Each one of them needs their own libraries, they have their own dependencies, and for all of these to work, it's very hard in the beginning of a project to set up everything. You need to do all of them manually. But right now with Docker, we have a chance to do all of them automatically. This is still the case now. So whenever right now even you want to start with a new project, there are different requirements and criteria and environment and libraries that you need to set up before you start working on your project. So what Docker does, it will create a local environment and it will set up all the bundles, all the libraries, and it will set it in a whatever environment that you specified. These closed environment can be a startup and shut down very easily via Docker commands. This way you have the choice to easily switch between different projects that they are very different to each other and they have very different environment. This way you make sure that your machine is always compatible with whatever project that you want to do. One of the key benefits of using Docker is that you're making sure that you're running your application in a consistent environment no matter where you deploy them. This means that you can be sure that your application will run the same no matter which platform that it's running on. To use Docker, first of all you need to download Docker from the official website of Docker. Then you will create a small file called Dockerfile on your computer. This is a text file that contains all the instruction for building your application in the container. Once you have a complete Docker file, you can use one of the Docker commands called build to create your container. This will create an image that consists of all the things that your application needs to run. Now, after you build your container, you can use another command from Doc called run to run your container. This will start your application in the container and you can start using it as you would do it before. Other advantage of using Docker is for the developers that they are working in the same team. If these developers working on the same project, then it would be much easier for each one of them to set up a machine and start using the Docker file to create the container and work for that project. This way they don't have the hassle to go through all the instruction to build the environment on their platform to use it. Docker has another feature which lets you share your container with other people. So you can use one of the other Docker's command called Docker push to upload your image to a registry, and then other people can do another command called Docker pull to get your image and start working in your application. In addition to running your application in a container, Docker gives you the opportunity to manage your dependencies as well. This means that you can specify the exact libraries version that you are using and framework that your application needs to run on. Docker will make sure that they are installed in your container. This is very useful because then you don't need to worry about the conflicts between different versions of your different dependencies. This also makes it much easier whenever you want to update one of the dependencies or libraries. You just go to the Docker file and you just change the version number and then you just build the container from scratch and it should work. Another advantage of the using Docker is that most of the big hosting platform, they are also using Docker, and and it makes it much easier to deploy your application on a live environment in one of these hosting environments. So for example, AWS or Amazon Web Services, it has a service that allows you to upload your Dockerfile, and it will create a container or an environment that your application can run in it. This way you are avoiding all the hassle of setting up a live environment. One of the other possibility that this feature brings for us is that whenever you are feeling that your application it doesn't meet the demand of the customers or the request that it gets, you can just copy the Dockerfile and create a new environment, and you can load balance between those two. Another great feature that the Docker has is that you can scale your application very easily. If you have a lot of traffic to your application, you can use Docker to create multiple instances of your container and distribute the load between them. This is called container orchestration, and Docker has tools that make it easy to do it. So to summarize, Docker is a very powerful tool that can make your job much easier. You can run your application inside of containers, you can manage your dependency, you can scale up your application as needed. If you are not using Docker by now, I highly recommend that go ahead and try it. If you are still here with me this far, please like and subscribe to get notified when I upload similar videos to this. Now let's jump to my laptop and I will show you how to start using Docker and how to create your first Docker file. Let's go. So first of all, you will open the docker.com, the official website of Docker, and at the beginning it has the download Docker desktop. So go ahead and download it. It will take some time. After downloading the installation file, please go ahead and install it on your device. After the installation process is done, please open Docker. As you're seeing, whenever you start the Docker, it will take some time for it to activate it. Now the Docker is up and running. You can see that I have a container already in place from one of my projects. So to make sure that the Docker is up and running, you can bring up your terminal and start typing in Docker run hello world. So as you saw, the Docker first of all couldn't find this image on my local environment because it thought it's one of the images and the containers that I already have, which it wasn't case. So it went ahead and it did a Docker pull and it downloaded from the Docker registry. The reason that we are running this command is to make sure that the Docker is running in the background and it can create containers. If you would like to run an image that already exists, you can just write docker run and then the name of the image. So for example, if you would like to have an image of Ubuntu, we can just write docker run and Ubuntu and then Ubuntu. And then when you press enter, it will go ahead and it will get the latest Ubuntu image from the Docker registry, and it will start a container that it contains the Ubuntu image. As you can see in the Docker environment, now I have these hello world latest, which was the container that we run, and we wanted to see that if it was working. And this Docker desktop environment is a really nice UI to keep track of your containers, and it will show you the status, the errors, and lots of other information that you might need. It has also the if you go to the setting, you can see the different resources that it uses, and you can just adjust these sliders to whatever your preference is. Docker has another command which is really useful to see all your containers that they are running, and it's docker ps. So when you're running docker ps, it will bring up a list of containers, their ID, and every data they have. As you can see right now, as I'm not running any container, it's not running, it brings just an empty page for me. So one of the other commands that Docker has is the docker ps -a. This one, it will show you all the containers that exist in your environment, and they might be not running and they might be running. So this is a good one to see a list of all the containers that you have, no matter if they are up and running or not. So we can do a docker ps -a. Now, as you can see, it says that I had a hello world as a container. It was created 4 minutes ago. So Docker has two other commands called docker start and docker stop. With these two commands, you can start up a container or stop a container. So how you are using it, you can just write docker. You can just write docker start, and then you can write the name of the container, or you can go to the docker setup and see whatever was the ID of the container, and then you can just copy it, paste it, and then run it. Or the other one is that you can do a stop, so you do a docker a stop and the ID or the name of the container, and it will do the same. As Docker is a very popular tool around the world, there are lots of images already in place that you can use. These images has been created by different organization and people, and then you can use them. What you can do is that you write docker pool and the name of the image. So let me show you. Docker pool and the name of the image. Now you might ask, okay, how can I find these images and the name of them? So there's a website called hub.docker.com. You open it up, and then you do a sign in. After you sign into the website, you can go to explore section, and then as you see on your left side, there is a product called image. You can press on images, and then you can search around in all these images that they are available. As you can see, there are images for Nginx, so you will have your own local server. Images for Ubuntu, Python, Postgres for database, Redis, Node, HTTPD, Mongo, and so on. So you will see all the top organization, they have all their images available to take and then start developing. Most of these images, the top one that they are very popular, they have been uploaded by Docker themselves. So you can categorize them by Docker official image, and you can filter them out. So that was a basic overview of how to work with Docker and what kind of commands you can use as a beginner. I suggest you go ahead and start going through these images, select some of them, try to pull them and run them, and start working in your local environment. After you went so far and tried these basic commands, you can go to Docker documentation and you can see all the other commands that it can be useful for when you are getting advanced. As you see, these were the basic commands that you can use for using Docker. As this video is getting lengthy, I will do another video to tell you about the Dockerfile, how to create one, and also using Docker Compose. Docker Compose is another fantastic tool from Docker which allows you to have a YAML file of all the services that your application needs to run on. So in the next video, we'll go through those two subjects, and we will do tutorials on them as well. See you in the next video. Bye.